Good morning and happy Friday, everyone. DWAC stock is going crazy. Yesterday, this stock was trading for $10. Right now, it's trading for $104. Everyone's talking about it. It has a ton of hype, and it is just going crazy right now. Like I said, everyone's talking about it. Tom, I don't even know where to begin with levels on this one because it's just breaking all-time highs. I mean, there's not really any resistance, but do you see any levels or what are you thinking?
Honestly, there's not going to be that many levels to look at today. We might be able to look at these pre-market highs, but as we can see, they're getting broken right now. So there's not too many levels to look at. You could always look at psychological levels like key $10 areas, like $110, $120, stuff like that. But with how this stock moves, I would not be surprised if the momentum just kept up and it just kept breaking these resistances left and right. And we can see yesterday it pretty much went up all day before kind of consolidating within the last couple hours of trading. And I would expect something similar today. It looks like it's really explosive and it's definitely a momentum play. I would just stick with the momentum and, just honestly, just trade it until you see a big drop. Like if you start to see a big red candle come in, it might be time to get out. But man, it's going to be a tough one to trade either way, but it's definitely on fire and it has a lot of support behind it, given that it's, like Trump's new social media platform and everything.
I mean, this is just crazy. I mean, now $112, the hype's awesome. It's awesome to see setups like this, but I'll tell you, be really careful trading it. I mean, like I said, yesterday it was trading for 10. Right now it's trading for 112. So, there's a ton of hype, obviously, it being Trump's platform, but also with it being a SPAC deal. Over the past year, so many SPACs just went through the roof, and this one is clearly no different. But like I said, guys, just be careful because anytime, literally any stock goes from 10 to 115 now, you just got to be careful. So that's all I'm going to say. Now it's at 117. The market's not even open yet. It's crazy. But one other stock I really wanted to touch on really quickly was Snapchat. They're down pretty big in pre-market. They had some bad earnings and just not good news. But I just wanted to put that one. Just wanted to remind everyone on that one. It should be a pretty good setup for some short put options.
Yeah, definitely. And I had an alert on Snapchat actually at $69.70 or something very close to that. And it definitely broke that to the downside. We're going to open up around $58. We can see that on Snapchat's daily chart, they were consolidating here on the $70 support for a long time. And we actually broke this and we filled this gap on the daily chart all the way back down to this $58 level. I cannot believe that we filled that gap, and the way that Snapchat broke out of that channel was just insane. And these earnings lately have been really crazy. We've seen some stocks up, some stocks down, but in Snapchat's case, they got destroyed. I know Intel got destroyed in after hours yesterday too. And then Facebook and Twitter are also getting destroyed. And it looks like they even have some red coming in here at open.
All right, DWAC, Tom. The market is open. It is now at $130 each. We have Mike saying, is it possible to short DWAC, and would now be a good time to do that? So for retail traders, it probably won't be a realistic opportunity. I'm sure you can locate some shares to short if you have a good broker. But realistically speaking, there are probably a lot of funds that are in line to do that. So if you did get shares, your hard to borrow rate might be 20%. Who knows? So it's probably possible, but realistically speaking, the hard to borrow rate will significantly eat into your profits. We have DWAC halted right now. And then on top of that, the stock went from 10 to 130. If you short at 130, who knows? What if this thing goes up to 300? You know what I mean? So it's just you literally have unlimited risk. So it's probably not the realistic, I guess you could say, situation for most people.
Yeah, definitely. And it has a lot of momentum right now. And like Mike said, you never know. Look at how much we've already went up here since we started talking this morning. Whenever I started talking about this stock, it was at 106, 107. Now we're at 131 already. I would not be surprised if it kept breaking these highs later on today. After this halt, I feel like that there might be a little bit of a slowdown in the movement, but I feel like there's still potential for it to go up. And like Mike said, you might short it here and then the stock could go up another 100, 200 with the way it's been moving. I mean, what did we have yesterday? Like a 350% day.
Yeah.
If you're, comfortable holding through a big upswing or a big upwards move, then it might be a good way to go. But personally, I don't think I would do that. I would just try to play the momentum to the upside and maybe just try to catch a few dollars here or there for some quick day trades.
Yeah, so just one thing I want to say really quickly is I know that whenever we have a stock that goes crazy, like, AMC, GME, Clove, like basically anytime a stock goes crazy, I know a lot of people just like to rush into it of like, the fear of missing out. But guys, I really don't think that's a smart idea. Whenever you have a stock move like this, there's a pretty good chance it normally falls back down. So please just keep that in mind. But either way, it's good for short-term trading. And before we get with the next topic, Tom, I just want to welcome everyone to the stream. So thank you guys so much for joining, and welcome Jamie, George, Morris, Corbin, Hunter, Mike, Alex, Kumar, Vicky, Simon, Jay, and Sal. Thank you guys so much for joining today. If you guys want us to cover any specific stocks, just let us know in the live chat, and we can definitely do that. So we have Jay saying, any thoughts on Tesla? So while we are waiting for this DWAC halt, Tesla's looking pretty good. They're right at that 900 resistance. What do you think?
I think there'll be a new all-time highs pretty soon, hopefully. This looks like a pretty nice move this morning, and I really hope to see us break $900.40, which I believe that's the all-time high if we go look on the daily. Yeah, I'm not sure if it hit something in pre-market or after hours right there, but $900 is definitely the big resistance, and I hope that we can get through that. It looks like it's really testing that. I know NIO is having a pretty good day, kind of like Tesla was from yesterday, but it looks like they're actually kind of turning over so far this morning, not looking too good. One stock that is leading my watch list, Mike, is actually Zoom, and they're actually bouncing up pretty well, up 3.9%, and they're actually moving off that bottom support on the daily chart very well. But I just wanted to bring them up too, because they're honestly moving pretty well compared to a lot of other stocks today. They're up 3.7%, and the closest thing on my watch list is Baba at 1.05%. So they're honestly beating a lot of stocks out.
There we go. So yeah, Zoom's looking pretty good today. I like it. It's up like 4%, like you said. That's nice to see after all of the selling pressure they have had over the past couple of weeks. So good to see that. We have Sal saying, good morning, like button hit. Is PayPal good to buy the dip? So thanks for hitting that like button. If you guys like the stream, it would help Tom and myself out so much if you could hit that like button. It takes like 2 seconds, and we would greatly appreciate it. But he said, is PayPal good to buy the dip? So I know we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, Tom. They're a good company, good stock. They'll probably do great over the long term. If you're looking to do this for the long term, I think it's good to buy the dip. But if this is like a short term play, like anything less than like 6 months or so, I would say probably not. They are set to acquire Pinterest. So generally in situations like this, like the stock that is paying the money, as Tom would say, normally sells off for a little bit. So if it's a longer term play, yes. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think it might sell off a little bit more in the short term. There's definitely a pretty big support down here, right around the 225 area. So I would think that we could possibly come down and at least touch that. With the way we kind of fell below supports and stuff right here, I would not be surprised to see PayPal keep going down in the short term. But I will say I like their company and I like them for the long term. It's just in the short term, there's definitely some crazy stuff going on. Obviously, the past couple of days have not been good for them. And I feel like it's good to buy the dip, but I think I would wait just a little bit longer and maybe get in more around the support. Now, it could always bounce right here and go right back up, but I would just say with everything going on, just give it a week or two. And if not, then it's not too big of a deal. There's lots of other setups out there right now that I think are in a lot better situations, almost like Zoom, Corsair, and, lots of other stocks out there besides PayPal.
Gotcha. So what you could also do is, this is a completely different investment, but you know how PayPal is set to buy out Pinterest. So if we go to a Pinterest chart, if you wanted to, you could just buy shares of Pinterest, and if they get acquired, the shares of Pinterest will probably go to $70 or so, but it depends on how much the deal is for, and even if the deal happens. And then over time, your Pinterest shares will convert to PayPal shares. So, it's a different setup. It has its own unique risks, but as long as the deal goes through, if you wanted to buy Pinterest instead, one, the price will probably rise, especially if they are acquired for the amount they are supposed to be. And then at the same time, these Pinterest shares will turn into PayPal shares. So, like I said, though, there's a lot of variables, and the deal's not even done. So keep that in mind. We have J Trade saying DWAC froze. So yeah, they are still halted. They should be unhalted in a couple minutes here. So I'll definitely keep my eye on it, and as soon as it unhalts, we'll definitely take a look at it. We have Iranical saying thought to sell put on Intel. So Intel, it's just not a stock I want to hold for the long term. Tom might disagree with me there, but it's just, I feel like they're, I don't know, I just don't love their stock.
Yeah, I actually totally disagree. I actually like them for the long term quite a bit, and I think that they'll do pretty well. They've been going down in the short term a lot. AMD and Nvidia are obviously pretty big competitors to them, as well as even other companies like Qualcomm, MU, and stuff. And keep in mind, they're definitely no AMD. They're definitely no Nvidia. They don't make graphics cards. They only make processors. So there's a pretty big difference between all of those companies there. But I think that Intel should do pretty good in the long term. Now, in the short term, I was really kicking myself for not buying them off this 53 support. And I was actually telling Mike about this yesterday. I was so happy to see him drop because I thought I was missing the boat and it was going right back up. But I'm glad I trusted my gut and kind of trusted myself to not buy it there, because they've been having some pretty bad fundamental problems in the short term. But I feel like as they get down towards this 45 support, I feel like it'll be a good longer term pickup for shares and for selling puts as they start to fall. But as of right now, I think I would wait just like a week or two and then start to add in. But I like them for the long term. And when I say long term, I mean 3 to 5 years out. I'm not saying over the next year or two, but the whole chip industry is set to do pretty well over the next 5 years. So hopefully Intel could go up between now and then. If not, then AMD and Nvidia are definitely going to be powerhouses. But Intel makes processors, which is good. So hopefully they can get back up there and kind of hopefully they innovate and maybe come out with some new processors and stuff like that. I know that they've been delaying their new chips quite a bit, and this is probably part of the reason why they're falling.
Gotcha. So good stuff there. X said Intel's entering the graphics market soon too. So
hopefully.
Yeah. So that should be good. Tom, we have Jay saying UPST is tanking. Kind of forgot about this one. So yeah, it's definitely selling off a bit. They have earnings pretty soon, but I wonder if this is the top.
Yeah, I wonder if it is. I think it could honestly, it might be the top up there. That was a pretty big $400 level, pretty big psychological level, as well as just key level in general. And I feel like that the way we've seen 4 red candles come in, we haven't seen that since we saw the drop on September 30th and then at the beginning of October here. So hopefully we keep going down. If we bounce off this 340 support and go back up, then definitely look out for that support. But I really hope that we continue with some nice downwards movement here, and it might be time for puts, Mike. Who knows?
Yeah, we shall see. We have, let's see, with the next comment, we have Simon saying Amazon time. Too long time inside a box. Just bought some. There we go. I mean, they're a solid company and they have earnings soon, so should get pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting, and I think Amazon's been having a pretty good past couple of weeks. They bounced off this 3,200 support on the daily chart. They've been getting a pretty nice move back. And, the recovery for Amazon has been pretty decent. I know they had some decent Amazon numbers come out a while ago. And I really hope that these earnings go well for them coming up soon. That'll be a pretty big thing for Amazon. And I know that their web services and stuff might have been having some problems with chip delays and different stuff. So we'll have to see what they kind of talk about. But I really hope that they do well on earnings. And we've been seeing earnings go all across the board lately, some up, some down. So it's not like we're seeing just generally stocks do well on earnings. We've definitely been seeing a lot of drops. So it is worrying me a little bit.
All right, so DWAC is still halted. It should be unhalted very shortly. So I definitely have it on my radar. So yeah, let us know what stocks you guys are watching. This DWAC is going crazy. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it opens up. We have Simon saying, when should I sell BULZ? So I don't know what price you got in at. I don't know how much you have. Like, there's just so many variables to that question. So the more information, the better. Their chart looks okay, but to be honest, I don't really follow them too much. So I don't know. Tom, do you have like any thoughts on this one? Because this is the first time I'm looking at this stock.
Yeah, it's called Bank of Montreal Microsectors FANG. So I don't know. It seems like an ETF or like a whole bunch of stocks thrown into one type of ticker here. So if it is, I think then it could be pretty good. But to be honest, I don't know too much about it. Given that it's Bank of Montreal, it definitely sounds like something Canadian. So I don't know. It's definitely not moving too bad since it came onto the market, but I don't know. I'll definitely have to look into it a little bit more and kind of see what their holdings are and different stuff like that, and see even if they do hold anything, it might just be a stock straight up. But just given how it says micro sectors and stuff, I thought that it would be like an ETF.
Yeah. So we have Ironical saying, guys, gold broke 1800. So gold is looking pretty good in my opinion. Gold and silver were GLD and SLV. I think they're both at really good levels.
Yeah, me too. And actually, gold on the max daily chart is kind of consolidating here. We have like a very long term, like kind of wedge slash like triangle pattern that gold's been in for a while now. And it's honestly been bouncing off this 160 support every time we touch it. We just touched it a couple weeks ago and we got a nice move back. And it looks like the metals are definitely on a nice uptrend here. And I don't know if this has anything to do with maybe like the computer, like chipping, like the chip delays and stuff like that. I know that I know that like lots of metals are used in those chips, like silver, gold, platinum, stuff like that. And I know that like as the demand for those chips grows, I know that the metals should generally go up in price. I know that that's why people have been pretty bullish on silver the past few years, because they've been saying that it's been used in all these electronics and stuff.
Interesting. All right, so we have, let's see, George saying crowd is at all-time highs. Let's take a look. CRWD. I know they've been uptrending in an amazing way, and yeah, it looks like they just broke all-time highs.
Yeah, they did. This is the AI stock, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I got AI and like cybersecurity.
Yeah, this is awesome. I mean, I'm so glad to see him moving up like this to 290. I know DDOG was making new highs yesterday, so it's awesome to see these stocks just moving up in general like this. I like them all generally for the longer term, but with them being at all-time highs, it's going to be hard to buy them, I think, for the long term at these prices. But I think it's amazing to grab these stocks at dips or at like a little bit lower levels than they are right now. But I love the AI stocks for the long term.
Alrighty, yeah, I'm with you for sure. DWAC is still halted. It should be unhalted very shortly. I know I've been saying that, but we're getting very close to the end of the halt.
This has been a long one.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's going crazy. So I'm just curious to see what it opens back up at. Like we remember with GameStop and AMC, like the halts were wild. So I know, like obviously this one halted right at open. And I know a lot of people probably weren't even able to get in, so they probably have a lot of buy orders, I guess you could say, loaded up. And at the same time, I'm sure some people are looking at this one and saying, maybe trying to look in profits. I don't know. It's very volatile.
Yeah, it really is. And I hope that people are trying to buy this one up. I hope this one keeps exploding just for the sake of awesome movement here. It's really cool. And I think that the way that this has moved over the past day shows that there's a lot of strength, I think, in some of these new like social media like platforms. I think that lots of people are maybe tired of like Facebook, Twitter and stuff like that. And it's always cool to see a new face on the block. I know that whenever Snapchat first came on the market, they were pretty awesome too. So, it's always cool to see kind of a new company come out and kind of disrupt that industry, because it's almost seemed like that there's been a monopoly going on between like Facebook, Twitter, I guess you could say Instagram, but they're technically Facebook too. So technically Facebook, Snapchat, and then pretty much just like Pinterest. There's not really too many other social media companies out there. So it's definitely a very interesting thing to see. And hopefully after the halt, they gap up. I would hate to see them come back down to $100 or something. But like you said, hopefully there's lots of buy orders, and I'd love to see them have a nice gap.
All right. We have... Sorry about that. We have Hunter saying Beyond is clapped. So BYND. Yeah, this one's down 15%
Oh.
today. I was not expecting that, but yeah, it's looking pretty bad. I haven't looked into this one too much, but that daily chart's looking pretty bad. I'm honestly out of all the stocks that are getting smacked right now, like Beyond, Intel, and Snapchat, I'll probably just sell some puts on Snapchat.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the smarter one to go with too. Beyond is definitely falling down and they might be good for the long term, but they are in a pretty crazy sector given that they're like they make the fake meat, I guess. I'm not trying to be crude with it or anything, but they make meat that is made of plant-based meat. So it's probably a pretty good thing for the future, but for right now, obviously they're falling down. I'm seeing news that they just cut their quarter 3 revenue forecast. So that's a bad thing to see there. And they do have earnings coming up on November 10th. So with them cutting their forecast there, it's definitely not going to be looking good heading into earnings. And I would definitely rather pick up Snapchat too. I think that the way Snapchat fell, Mike, is pretty drastic too. Like it's not like they fell a little bit. They're down 23%. This is pretty crazy. And I would think that they're going to be pretty good to average into shares over the next couple of weeks as they consolidate.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these put premiums, and they're pretty good. Yeah, I'm looking at like the 50 strike put for next week, and I could always roll out and stuff, but it should be interesting. And then Tom, we had a couple people asking about buy levels on Snapchat. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say some good buy levels for the longer term. Honestly, there's a pretty big support here, right around $57 that we touched back on July 19th. I think that's a pretty big support, but it looks like in the short term, we will probably break that to the downside. I would more of want to get shares around $53 to $50. I think that that's the biggest support level is down there right around 50. I think that'll hold up pretty well for the long term. We've already bounced off of it 3 other times. And I just feel like that with the stock going down, we have a pretty big chance to bounce off of that or maybe bounce pretty soon. But I would definitely, if I was going to start selling some puts here, I would definitely try to go to like the 50 strike or the 52 strike and definitely get somewhere pretty low because with the way we fell, definitely expect for maybe like a multi-day move to the downside. But like I said, the big support is down there at 50.
Good stuff. So yeah, it should be interesting. All right, so we have Corbin saying, guys, buy Disney. I have a call, 175 for what is that, February of 2022. It looks pretty good. I like Disney, and I'm also in calls. So I like the setup, and they have earnings pretty soon. So it should be good. I'm looking across my watch list right now. So yeah, we have George saying DraftKings is breaking support. I know this one's been struggling a lot lately. It's definitely sucks to see. We're waiting on news with that Entain deal as well as a potential ESPN deal. So, they have a lot of catalysts, but, they're definitely struggling in the short term. You hate to see it after such an amazing uptrend throughout July and August.
Yeah, this is just a really bad thing to see with DraftKings. I thought that with the way they were consolidating there around $48 that it might end up holding up, but it looks like we are going to kind of fall out of that range. And in my opinion, with us kind of falling out of this, I could see us maybe coming down and retesting the support around like $45 to $43. I think we could see that maybe over the next couple of weeks. And man, it's a very unfortunate thing to see, but they are on offense. They're spending lots of money in the short term. So that could be a big reason why they're going down. They have the Entain deal, possible news with Disney, like Mike said, with ESPN Plus. And, there's just a whole bunch of different scenarios right now that DraftKings are going through. I know that Entain deal should be pretty good if it ends up going through. So maybe once it finally does happen, we'll get a nice boost back. But for right now, just breaking support. And I would kind of target $45 or $43 over the next couple of weeks. But keep in mind, even though they're down, if they fall from 50 down to 45, I mean, keep in mind that's only a $5 move. Like we've been seeing lots of other stocks have way larger moves to the downside, like Snapchat and different stocks like that. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I feel like DraftKings can end up doing pretty good in the longer term, and maybe their earnings can give them a nice boost whenever they come out.
All right, we have Jay saying Facebook is dipping too. So yeah, I know that Snapchat, Facebook, I believe Twitter. Yeah, Twitter's getting smacked. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the other social media stocks are struggling today, obviously from the data from Snapchat, but also from DWAC. So very interesting. And, I feel like this will provide a good opportunity to pick some of these stocks up at a great price. Snapchat being one of them. I mean, they're down 22% today. I like them for selling puts. But like even if you wanted to buy shares for the long term, I don't think it's like necessarily a horrible time. I don't think this is the bottom, but no one can consistently catch the bottom.
Yeah, and today's a really good day for that too, because it's a Friday, and what you could do is you could say, hey, I'm gonna buy $1,000 of Snapchat today, and then 1,000 next Friday, and 1,000 next Friday, and you can kind of average into it while it's falling down here, and who knows, it might bounce here and start to fly back up. So I think it's definitely a good time to start averaging in, and it could definitely be a pretty good bounce for the longer term if it does end up going back up as well. And one thing that I like a little bit better about Snapchat than I like about Facebook and Twitter is that Snapchat hasn't been taking as much flack from like Congress and stuff. I've been seeing lots of bad news regarding Twitter in Congress and Facebook in Congress, and they've been talking about these two companies really, really like meddling in like the political climate, meddling and just all types of different stuff, trying to send people certain ads to get different ad conversion rates. And, obviously they're trying all types of stuff to make certain amounts of money, stuff like that. I haven't heard, though, Congress say too much stuff about Snapchat yet. Not saying that they won't in the future, but it seems like Facebook and Twitter are the big two that have been taking a lot of flack lately. So I do like Snapchat, given that it's just, like I said, I feel like they're a little bit safer than these other two, just given that they haven't had people investigated by Congress and stuff.
Good stuff. Alrighty, so Tom, we're still waiting on this DWAC to be unhalted. While we're waiting for that, Zoom is kind of holding its ground. It's not up as much as it was earlier. Some sellers did come in, but one stock that's just kind of creeping up there is BABA. They're up over 1% on the day. They gapped up in pre-market, and they are just under that 180 resistance.
Man, this stock is not slowing down. That resistance at 180 is definitely holding up pretty well. But with the way we're kind of coming back up today, I would not be surprised for BABA to break this up. Look at BABA on the daily chart. This is actually getting insane. Mike, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, sorry, my Thinkorswim started loading. I think that they might be having some issues here with DWAC. I would not be surprised if all these brokerages started having some slowdowns here. But looking at BABA, I'm really looking for them to pass above 180 as well. I think the setup looks amazing, and the daily chart recovery is just awesome. I mean, they've been going straight up ever since they hit that 140 support. So I hope it continues, and I think there's definitely a good chance if they break 180.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. It's definitely holding its ground, and I think it really says something how Charlie Munger is doubling down on his position. Like I know that even a lot of investors like Kathy Wood got out, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that she got out, but I just think it's interesting to see how I guess you could say some of the old school guys are buying the dip. So with everything being said, it's still a risky stock. There are some very unique risks with this play, but they're also at good levels. So I guess it's just like a balancing act there. But it's definitely popping up, which is great to see. In terms of like other stocks that are moving, there aren't like any like crazy movers right now. I mean, Nvidia looks kind of good. Like they're actually breaking their all-time high.
Yeah, look at that. Nvidia's having a pretty nice move to the upside, and I know they had a pretty nice run yesterday as well. And this morning in pre-market, they actually had a nice explosion. But yeah, I like Nvidia a lot. I know AMD should be moving pretty well also, and they're not moving quite as well, but they are up today also. But Nvidia is pretty nice, and they've been a pretty big powerhouse for the past couple of years. They're obviously the biggest graphics card maker in the world right now, and they're really showing their strength here, flying up. And I know lots of people were expecting them to possibly dip down after they had that split a while ago, and they've just been really showing their strength and just continuing to move up. So I would say Nvidia's, they're breaking all-time highs, and I'll be honest, this stock is probably going to be one of the best stocks in over the next 5 to 10 years. So I think it's amazing that it's breaking all-time highs. I'm not sure I'd grab shares of it at this exact moment, but I love the setup. And I think that Nvidia is just such a big powerhouse, Mike. They're definitely not going anywhere. And in the short term, if they could break this high of day, I think it could definitely make for a pretty good like intraday move to the upside if you want to play a nice breakout if they break that daily high.
There we go. So we have George saying Bitcoin is pumping. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So I know that the Bitcoin futures are down a little bit. So I'm just looking. Yeah. So yeah, they're definitely struggling a little bit right now. If we look at the BITO ETF, it's down like almost 1% today. But keep in mind, Bitcoin had a crazy run up over what the past couple weeks. So or even like I guess I'd say the past couple weeks. So part of this is expected, but at the same time, it does suck to see this sell off.
Yeah, and we've been going straight up almost since we hit 40K on Bitcoin, but it does suck to see that it's coming down this drastically. I thought maybe with that all-time high getting broken that we might have a little bit of like a multi-day runner, maybe up to like 70K or I was really hoping for 75K, but that obviously didn't happen. Hopefully we can see a nice turnaround in the short term. I was really looking for a nice breakout since we broke that all-time high, but just looks like we turned around here and obviously it's just not moving the best. And a lot of people were hyping it up with that Bitcoin ETF coming onto the market. And, Mike, I know that we were talking about this quite a bit, that Bitcoin might drop on the ETF coming out. And, on the first couple of days, Bitcoin did pretty well, but now we're seeing that drop kind of come in. And I really hope that Bitcoin doesn't start taking some pretty drastic moves. Like if we see drops down below the 60K support, I'd get pretty worried about it in the short term.
Yeah, in the short term, I mean, I'm not really too worried about it for the long term. I just feel like with the movement we've had, that we are due to have a volatile dip. That doesn't mean it's going to dip down to 40K, but honestly, I would not be surprised if we retested, I don't know, like 58 or 57K.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised either. I'm really hoping that we can hold somewhere right around there. I like honestly, like if we break below like 58K and we start to go back towards like 50K, I'd get pretty worried. But we'll have to see what happens. We're around 4K away from there, and that's going to be a pretty big support, I think, there, right around 58 to 60K. So hopefully that ends up holding up. And like I said, it would only be the short term. I'd only be looking for it to go down for like a week or two at most there. So it's not like I'm like saying it's going to crash or burn or nothing, but I feel like that with the way it's moving, I wanted to see some more explosive movement to the upside. And I really hope that we see that maybe when it hits support.
For sure. Awesome. So across the board, we do have the bank stocks looking pretty good today. We have Bank of America breaking out. They're actually exploding. Goldman Sachs is looking pretty good. JP Morgan is exploding as well. So these bank stocks are on fire.
Yeah, they are. JP Morgan, I think, just made a new all-time high. Yeah, they did. That's an awesome thing to see for the banks. I know they've been loving the rates going up lately, Mike. They've been loving that news. They've been loving what Powell's been talking about. And it just seems like, I don't know, a lot of people were expecting banks to maybe start to fall off here, especially like once they had those bad downturns a couple months ago, but they really recovered, just kept pushing up the new highs. And it's honestly pretty cool to see. And they've been having great earnings as well. Like they've been beating on their EPSs. They've been having good revenue and good outlook. So it's been moving pretty well. I know that JP Morgan, a couple weeks ago, Mike, they reported earnings, then they had that bad drop. But whenever the rest of the banks reported, JP Morgan turned it right around.
There we go. Awesome to see that. Tom, I have one setup that I wanted to hear your thoughts on. What do you think of Teladoc at these levels? TDOC.
TDOC. Let's check it out on the max daily level. Oh man, it kind of reminds me of a stock like Zoom or like Corsair or like some of those growth stocks down here at these levels. And honestly, with it being Teladoc, it kind of is in the same sector as a Zoom. They popped off with COVID. Obviously, more people were probably using their platform back then, but for right now, we're seeing Zoom kind of bounce off support and go back up. And I would not be surprised if Teladoc held its support around 132 and went back up. They did break that a couple weeks ago, fell down to 120, but I'll be honest, for the long term with shares, I feel like this is a pretty decent setup, and it might be better to wait until after earnings, but I feel like it's in a pretty decent setup right here for shares for the longer term, or even maybe even selling puts, Mike. It looks like the IV is actually holding its ground pretty well. It's not even that low. So this seems like a pretty good setup to me for the longer term. And I really like how it's been consolidating for a few months. Like we're not buying it on the first dip. Like it's definitely been here for a long time. And it kind of reminds me of like like an end phase before they popped off, like kind of like whenever end phase was at their lower levels.
For sure. Interesting. So that's good to see. We have Brian saying, good morning. Thoughts on PHUN? So I know this one has a ton of hype with it. It is exploding. I know that they were also halted. There's just a lot of stocks that are, just go. Oh, wow, DWAC is back. So there's a lot of stocks that are just going crazy right now. They're good for short-term plays, but for the long term, you got to be careful. But looking at DWAC, it had highs of what, 175? Yeah, 175. Are they halted again?
Yeah, they're halted again. They just halted for 20, like 29 minutes or something, or 30 minutes probably. Came back from the halt, had a crazy up and down move for like 2 seconds, and then got halted again. Like
Wow.
this is probably going to happen all throughout the day today, and this is going to be nuts. I mean, they gapped up the 175. Like, that is insane.
Wow. I can't believe this. Like, literally, like, yesterday this was a $10 stock. Now it's...
Yeah, I know. Like, this is getting some crazy hype behind it, and man, this is I can't even believe it. Like, this is definitely going to be disrupting the market, I think, over the next month or
Wow.
two.
I mean, I'm at like a loss for words. Like, it's exploding up. So, guys, please be careful with this one. Just because you see it going from 10 to 175, that does not mean to, just blindly buy in. Okay, like, I know that it's tempting. It can be great for short-term trades, but just please be careful. So many people got screwed over when GameStop, AMC, and a bunch of other stocks popped off. Like, a lot of them never even like had like a good recovery. Like, I remember like NOK, Tom, like that one had like what, a couple, like a good week or so, and like never really came back. Like, if we pull it up on the daily chart, it had one good week, and it's slowly lingering up now, but it's nowhere near what, $9 or $10 that it was at a couple months ago.
Yeah, it's really not. And you have to be really, really careful with these lower price stocks. And it's always going to be really tough to say. And, DWAC could have a bad move down like this and come right back up, or who knows? Like, look at AMC. AMC had that nice explosive move, and then now they're just kind of consolidating. But I feel like DWAC is a little bit, I don't know, like, definitely let me know your thoughts, Mike, too. But I feel like DWAC might be a little bit different, given that it's not a social media company yet, but like, hopefully it can get going and start to get off the ground pretty good here over the next year or two. And I'm just so interested to see what happens. It's so hard to say though. Like, do I think that in the next 3 weeks that this stock will still be at $150? I don't know. I'd have to. It's going to be so hard to say with this one. This one's a really big coin flip. I would have to say it'll probably be lower than that, but who knows? I hope it goes up to $500 a share and stays there, but that probably won't happen. And we'll probably see some pretty big up and down moves over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it to you that this one is unique, but at the same time, like, is it worth $175 a share? I mean, that some people would argue yes, some people would argue no. Like, I just feel like we're so early in the process. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's so many variables. So it's a crazy stock. I mean, it's definitely going to make headlines for the next couple days or so. And it's probably gonna be halted for what, another 30 minutes, something like that. So I guess we'll be waiting for it. But in the meantime, let us know what other stocks you guys are watching. We'll definitely have DWAC in the background. So when it does resume, we will cover it. But looking at PHUN, I know we were looking at this one. Like, it is also exploding up off of hype. It's kind of like the same setup in the sense that it's just exploding like DWAC. But with this one, like, just be careful with all these crazy runners.
Yeah, it's going to be really crazy over the next like 3 weeks, especially with this one too. Like, I can't believe this one's up 1,000% at $18. Like, imagine what it would have been up there at 24. Like, this is honestly like a crazy setup too. And I don't know, it's going to be really hard to trade these stocks over the next few weeks. But oh wow, DWAC actually is unhalted. So this halt only lasted for 5 minutes, it looks like. But the previous halt was 30 minutes. I could not believe it was that long. But look at this. We're actually coming right back to the downside after this halt. But, one thing I did want to bring up about DWAC is that on the way up, if you guys do plan on holding this for the long term, one other thing to keep in mind is that this stock is connected to Trump in a way. So one thing to keep in mind is like if there's some bad news that comes out about Trump or about the social media platform or maybe some delays or Congress looking into something or something, it could obviously have a pretty big drop on that news too. So I just wanted to throw that out there that, while it is moving up based on its connections, the connections could also make it fall in the short term. So be really careful with it. But look at that drop here after that halt. That's crazy.
Yep, so this is like the first major red candle that we've seen actually with this one, because yesterday it was basically straight up. Today it was basically straight up until now. So it's still up 216% on the day. It's down to 144. It's not really moving right now. So yeah, I mean, it looks like another halt.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely halted again. I don't know if this one's going to be a 5 minute halt or a 30-minute halt, but I would guess it's going to be another 5 minute halt. But yeah, it's definitely halted again, and it looks like it's definitely starting to get some momentum to the downside. So I hope that it can end up holding some levels and maybe go back up after this halt. But given how much it's halting and stuff, I feel like that it's going to bring the stock down. And I don't know, I've never seen a stock. I've seen stocks halt, Mike, but I don't know if I can't recall ever seeing a 30-minute halt like that before. I'm sure I have, but it's just, it's been the last time I would have seen it was GameStop or something, but I just don't remember seeing a 30-minute one before.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some information on the different halts right now, but here, let me just look into this really quickly. So yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing any major information. Like, obviously we know it's halted, but I'm trying to see like the length it will be halted for. So yeah, we'll definitely have it on the radar again. Looking at the market overall, the SPY is not really doing anything. We could see it's technically up today, and is this? I think it actually broke all-time highs today, Tom.
Yeah, 454.31. It looks like yeah, it did actually by about 10 cents. So yeah, we did actually break that, which is awesome to see. And I'm glad to see it. And it looks like honestly, with the way it's setting up on the intraday, I'll be honest, this looks like a pretty bullish setup here. And I would not be surprised to see it make new highs over the next like maybe 15 to 30 minutes. If you see it break out above 454.31 and you guys are experienced at trading scalps, it could be a pretty good trade to the upside.
You know it, and Tesla's actually exploding up as well. They actually broke all-time highs.
Yeah, look at that, up above $900. While DWAC has been stealing the headlines, Tesla coming in here making new highs up at 907. That's awesome. And people have been talking pretty good about Tesla the past week. And I'll be honest, with the way it's breaking, it might not break out too much. We might get a little bit of a fake out, but I would love to see it come up to like a grand a share. I think that would be awesome for them. And I remember the last time, Mike, remember before Tesla split, I can't remember the exact levels, but what were they at? Like 1,500 or like 2,000? Like, man, I would not be surprised to see them get up around a grand again over the next week.
Well, think about it this way. So, So they had their split in September of last year, and it was a 5-for-1 split. So on a split adjusted basis, right now Tesla would be worth 4,500 a share.
Wow, that's insane. Like, could you imagine if it never would have split? It would be looking like it would be looking better than Amazon right now if it hadn't split, which is just crazy to say almost. Like that's honestly like really crazy. 4,500. I could not imagine that. And good thing they split because I think people's minds would be blowing up right now.
No one would be able to afford the options on it. I mean, if we think Tesla options are expensive now, with an at the money, let's say an at the money call that expires in a month, costing 3,400. I mean, imagine if it never split. Like it would be like 100 grand an option. I mean, it depends, of course, on the strike and everything, but. Yeah, I mean it's crazy, and it is good to see it breaking all-time highs though. So yeah, looking at everything else, Baba's also having a pretty good day. They're up 2%, and they are really holding their ground. I know a lot of the Chinese stocks are popping up pretty well, and one of them that's really moving is actually PDD. They are up 7%.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about PDD in a few weeks, and they're actually looking pretty good here. And their daily setup looks pretty decent here, Mike. They bounced off that long-term support at $80 a share. And I love the way they're breaking this $100 resistance right now. This honestly looks like a pretty good swing play here.
Yep. Alrighty. Also, gold and silver are looking pretty good today. I feel like a lot of people are gonna sleep on these two. Like obviously with all of the craziness going on with DWAC and Tesla, gold and silver are creeping up there, and I feel like they're at a really good level.
They really are. And look at this gold futures chart. I think that gold is in one of the more bullish setups right now than we've seen in a while, actually. I love the way slash GC is bouncing off of their like 1680 support, 1700 support, you could say. It's moving very well to the upside off of this. And I would not be surprised. Like, it almost looks like gold is like taking a nice like staircase to the upside, Mike. Like, I would love to see it hold this support and get a nice move back up. If we could break 1900 on slash GC over the next couple months, I think gold could have a pretty explosive move back. And I would not be surprised to see it. We're seeing crude oil continue to fly through the roof up here at $83 a barrel. And gold and silver have kind of been honestly moving to the downside over the past few months. So I really hope that they can recover up. And, inflation's been going up for a lot of other things. And hopefully gold and silver can start to rise too.
Yeah, I feel like they've kind of been lagging behind. Like we're seeing Bitcoin go through the roof, copper, lumber, everything, and the precious metals are kind of. I mean, they're not tanking by any means. They're not really moving.
Yeah, they're just not moving too much, and it's just metals are generally slower movers, which is good, but in the longer term, they should be pretty good. And I really hope that gold and silver can start to pop off. Like I said earlier in the stream, lots of people like these, like I shouldn't say the companies, they like these commodities because they are used in so many of these new electronics coming out. Like all these electric vehicles are using gold and silver for a lot of their connections on the insides and stuff like that. I know computers use gold and silver, like processors use it, graphics cards use it, and there's just lots of good stuff with like conduction and different scientific properties that these metals have that allow them to conduct electricity pretty well. So that's the good thing about them. And I feel like that they're going to be awesome for the long term, especially with the way all these chip stocks and stuff keep going up, like Nvidia, AMD, and these metals are going to be used in everything in the future.
All in all, it has a ton of uses, and it should, it's probably not going to go anywhere. And it's been used for what, thousands and thousands of years. So it's a safe play. Is it going to double your money in a year? Probably not, but it's a safe play and it's looking pretty good. But it looks like DWAC is getting some action right now. They are coming down. They are now down to 120, and it looks like people are selling off, and we are halted again. And I know that the spreads can get pretty wild with these circuit breakers, but what's very interesting is, so the last traded price for this one was at $121.99, okay? The ask is at $121.99, and the bid is only at $75. So that's a little scary, but, of course, the circuit breakers kind of screw things up with that. So I guess it's probably not 100% accurate, but all in all, it's definitely struggling a little bit. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, it just keeps gapping down pretty bad. It's just not a good scenario right now. And obviously, halts are generally not good for the stock whenever it's happening. So hopefully this stock can start to go back up. But I will say, with the way it halted for 30 straight minutes, that probably dampened a lot of the volume coming into the stock. And whoever came up with that one definitely did their job there, because the halt definitely helped the move up stop. So it's definitely a weird scenario. And I feel like that this one could keep going down. This halt definitely is bringing some red momentum into this. And like you said, that bid is at $75, and it probably won't open down here at 75. But man, with the way it's gapping, like we've already fallen from 175 down to 120. That's about a 50-point move. Like we could always fall from 120 down to 80 again, or down to 70.
Yep, for sure. And then we have Max saying, how do you guys like Apple for next week? Earnings has me a little wary of options for next week. It's all right. It's not my favorite play in the world, but, with the market breaking all-time highs and, Apple definitely holding its ground. They do have earnings soon, so it's not really a play for me.
Yeah, I think the earnings on them are going to be very 50-50, kind of like what we saw with Tesla and Netflix. If we go look at like Tesla's 15-minute chart, you can see their earnings. They didn't really do anything until the next day. Then they started getting a big boost up. Netflix actually was kind of the same way. Their earnings were really 50-50, and then they started boosting up a few days later. I feel like Apple might be the same. Don't expect a huge move on the actual earnings, but if the earnings go well, I think it could be good for like a after earnings run up. But what I would do is just not even play it probably heading into earnings. But I will say that the breakout right now looks pretty decent, with the SPY starting to break out and with Apple starting to break its high as well. I think it looks like a pretty good day trade, maybe for like the rest of today or for the next couple days. But I don't think I would trade it through earnings, though.
All right, we have George saying something may be happening over at SKLZ. I saw ARK bought a ton of shares yesterday, and the stock has been recovering these past couple of days. So I've actually been considering buying the dip on this one. It's definitely like a riskier play, but it's definitely on my radar.
Yeah, mine too. I think it's in a pretty good setup here. Reminds me a lot of like Zoom, Peloton, CRSR even. Like a lot of stocks are in this type of setup. It's honestly moving just like a lot of the other growth stocks are, in my opinion. And I feel like that they could end up recovering up pretty well. And with Kathy, or I should say with ARK and them buying in down here at the bottom, I think that's a pretty good sign anyways. And I feel like they could end up getting a pretty good move here over the next few months. I'm not saying they're going to fly back up to $46, but I could possibly see them coming up and retesting that $20 resistance.
Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to like just grab like a leap or two on this one just for just for I don't know. I'm looking at the prices of it, and I don't know. I mean, it's definitely expecting a pretty big move. The IV's at 100%, but I don't know. I'm actually really glad you brought this one up, George. I'm gonna put this one on my watch list really quickly so I don't forget about it. But yeah, I feel like if you wanted to play it, now would be the time.
Yeah, I think so too. It looks like it's in a pretty decent setup, running up well, and I would honestly think that it has a pretty good chance. It looks like it's honestly about to break the high of day and keep running up right now.
All right, so good to see that. Tesla's still running strong. Baba's running strong. Lots of great movement today, Tom. Like, I was kind of worried because I know that in the middle of the week, or I think it was yesterday, like nothing was really moving. But today we have a lot of action. Baba's up 2.5%. Tesla's breaking all-time highs. Market's breaking all-time highs. DWAC's going crazy. The other one, PHE1 is going crazy. Beyond is down big. Snap's down big. So lots of big movers today.
Yeah, there really is. And these are some pretty big moves. Like, it's not just like small moves to the upside either. Like, generally, we're getting pretty good bounces. Like, Boeing's bounce this morning is pretty decent. And, I love seeing this across the board. And I would think that the market would be pushing a little bit higher than it is, but it's having some problems breaking out. But I would not be surprised if later today we're at new all-time highs. And I wonder how the QQQ is looking. Yeah, look at this. The QQQ is actually lagging behind the overall market a little bit, kind of consolidating down here in the middle of its range, and very interesting. I know that looking at my watch list, Mike, I have some stocks in the red. I know Intel is obviously the leader with those bad earnings they had down here around the $50 support. We have AMC red as well. Facebook is definitely not looking good, pretty far in the red. One that's pretty upsetting to say, Mike, is DraftKings. They're unfortunately not looking good below that 48 support. Twitter, Clover, LCID. There's quite a bit of stocks that are red, but most of them are some of these like lower price stocks like Lucid, AMC, Clover. I mean, I don't want to say DraftKings is like a low price stock, but just compared to some of the bigger ones like Tesla, they're pretty small comparatively. And it's nice to see the market going up, but half of my watch list is still red, even though we're getting some explosive moves out of some stocks. Some of them are just tanking off.
For sure. Yeah, very interesting. And then CLF is actually going to the moon. CLF is up like 11% today, and it's just another one to keep on your radar. It just popped up on my momentum screener.
And this is actually like a mining company, aren't they?
I don't follow them too much, so I'm just gonna...
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna look it up really quick. I think that they are. Yeah, it says that they're an Ohio-based company that specializes in mining, beneficiation, and pelletizing of iron ore, as well as steel making. So yeah, it sounds like they do stuff with steel and different mining stuff. So that could be pretty good in the short term, especially with the prices of steel and everything up. Like, I would think that would definitely help a company like CLF. And I'll be honest, Mike, its CLF setup is pretty similar to something kind of like it reminds me of like UUUU. And then what was that other uranium stock that you like?
CCJ.
CCJ. It kind of reminds me of these setups before they broke out in a way, like they're kind of like it's kind of trying to come back up there with the prices of steel.
Yeah, I can see it for sure. I mean, actually, yeah, I'm gonna put this one on my watch list too. I might get some leaps on it. I don't know. I gotta do a little bit more research, but it's definitely on my watch list. And let's do another check-in with DWAC really quickly. Still at 121.99. It is still halted. We are still up 168% on the day. But all in all, the stock is tanking right now. But again, it's halted, and circuit breakers are crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. And I can't believe we're halted at 121 again. And it looks like this halt might be another 30-minute one. How long have we been halted for here? It's already been like 10 minutes again. So I would maybe expect another 30-minute halt. And we'll just have to see what happens. This is honestly like a crazy thing. It's like groundbreaking almost. Like we haven't had a new social media company in forever. And I really hope that we can get rolling pretty good here. And look at this. We actually just opened here again, and the stock is down to $100. We actually just fell below 100, and I believe it just got rehalted again. So, man, this is getting crazy. Every time we unhalt, we just get a huge move, like 5% move to the downside, then another instantaneous halt, it's getting kind of crazy here.
Wow. I'm lost for words, Tom. It's been such a crazy past 2 days. Like $10 up to 175, and it takes like 2 days to do that, and then it takes what? Like 20 minutes to go from 175 down to 99. That's the saying that the market takes the stairs up and the elevator down, but it has been crazy. I know we just keep saying crazy, but it is. I'm like lost for words.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, it's a very unique scenario, and it's never really happened before in the market. Sure, there's always IPOs that end up flying up and stuff like that, but generally nothing like this. This is just a very unique scenario, very crazy. And I'm really curious to see if this thing can start to move back up again today. Like I'd love to see it maybe be able to get back up at some point. If it falls down to if it's able to go back down to like 40 a share or something, I might even look at like grabbing a little bit of it if it goes that low. But the chances of it going down to there are probably pretty low. But either way, it's going to be a pretty risky stock, but definitely interesting. And I'm really curious to see how it does around this $100 area. I was hoping that would be a nice psychological level, and we might end up going back up off of here. But it looks like we're just going to be consolidating. And with the way these halts are going, unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people are selling out every single time.
All right, so Tom, I know there's a lot going on in the market, but do you have like any top stocks you were watching for the rest of the day?
For the rest of today, I'm really keeping my eye on Zoom. I know they had a big move up this morning. They are kind of falling back down right now, and I'd love to see them be able to maybe bounce off support down here around 278 or somewhere like that, and then start to get a nice move back up. I know they were looking awesome off of their support here, and I was just really looking for a nice move back up with them. So hopefully we see them start to go back up. I know another one that's been moving very well today is Baba. I'll definitely be watching them, and they've been coming up towards this 182 resistance, and they might break that high of the week, that high of Wednesday around 182.45. And if they break that, I think Baba could have a pretty nice run up today, but just be careful. It might double top here and go down. So always be careful. The banks are running too, which is always nice to see. But, the main thing I've been watching today is DWAC. There's obviously a lot more setups out there, but this has really been taking a lot of my attention this morning.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So with the last comment, we have Robin saying, Volvo Cars IPO soon. Got an employee offering. What are the risks to care for during listings like this? So while we do not specialize in this type of stuff, you can say some of the, I guess you say, more obvious risks are that, if we're being completely objective, like of course, like the stock can go to zero, but it's unlikely. Like obviously the stock falling is one major risk. And then another thing to keep in mind is I believe there is a lockup period, so I don't think like you can just sell whenever you want. I guess it depends on the IPO and things like that, but I believe you will be required to hold for a certain amount of weeks or months or whatever. But like I said, we don't specialize in this stuff, and it would be best to just like consult with someone who is more familiar with that specific offering. But all in all, generally speaking, the IPOs are normally pretty volatile, and as we see like a lot over the past year, sometimes you'll have a stock IPO at like what was it? I think it was Airbnb, Tom. Like the stock was initially set to IPO at what was it? Or maybe it was Coinbase. I think actually it was Coinbase.
It was Coinbase.
Okay, yeah. So the stock was initially set to IPO maybe like 180 or 150 or something like that. And then it opens at like 380, runs up to 429, then falls down to 208, and now it's back at 300. So there's obviously a ton of volatility involved with it. So it's just you have to be willing to stand that.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be crazy. You're going to have some crazy up and down moves. And the good news is that Volkswagen should do pretty good, or I shouldn't say Volvo. Yeah, sorry. I was actually looking up Volkswagen stock in the background just as a comparison. But yeah, looking at everything, Volkswagen is actually VWAGY. I'll just bring it up so we can look at it. But yeah, Volvo, I feel like is going to have a very interesting IPO. And with them being another car manufacturer, it just brings another kind of interesting thing onto the market. If they start getting into electric vehicles and stuff like that, which I'm sure that they are. I haven't heard too much news about them specifically though, but I feel like once they kind of get that hype around them, they could have some pretty nice moves to the upside as well. And I don't know, Mike, if maybe they're coming onto the market to try to take advantage of some of this. Like, Ford and General Motors have been going down for the past like if we look at the max weekly chart is what I mean. You can tell that they've been going up for the past year, but ever since like the early 2000s, they've just been slowly going down. And I'm wondering if this electric vehicle, I don't know what to call it, like a renaissance, but it's honestly like, I don't know if a lot of these car companies are trying to really take advantage of this electric vehicle market. Like we might see these car companies have some pretty nice growth over the next 10 to 20 years.
No doubt. So thank you guys so much for joining us today on the stream. I know the market was crazy and there's a lot of stocks moving big time. Be careful with all these big moves. And again, thank you guys so much for watching and have an amazing weekend.